This is an analysis from Alpha Business Media. Perched right at the top of the world, sandwiched between two absolute giants, Nepal is performing one of the most high-stakes balancing acts in modern geopolitics. So let's dive in and analyze how it navigates this incredibly complex relationship.
You know, the key to understanding Nepal today is to see it as an active tightrope walker. This isn't a country just passively stuck in the middle. Oh no, it's deliberately and yes, sometimes very precariously, playing the rivalry between its neighbors to secure its own future. Every single move is a calculated risk.
So, how did Nepal even end up on this tightrope in the first place? Well, the answer, as it so often is, lies in its history. The decisions made decades ago have forged the very specific, very intense pressures of today. This timeline really shows you how the tension built up over time. For decades, a 1950 treaty placed Nepal firmly in India's orbit, a relationship some in Kathmandu saw as having a big brother who was maybe a little too involved. The first real step to diversify came in 1961 with a road deal with China. But the real game changer, that was the 2015 fuel crisis. What was widely seen as a blockade by India sent a massive shockwave through the country. It laid bare just how dependent they were, and the response was swift and strategic. Just 2 years later, they joined China's Belt and Road Initiative. It was a crystal clear signal. Nepal was actively looking for other options.
Now, this balancing act, it's not just happening out there on the world stage. It is tearing right through Nepal's domestic politics. For political leader in Kathmandu, the ability to get support and, let's be honest, funding from either Beijing or Delhi translates directly into power at home. I mean, just look at what happened in March 2024. The prime minister suddenly switched coalition partners, dropping a pro-India party to team up with one known for its strong pro-China views. Foreign policy has become the key to domestic political survival.
So, where can you see this rivalry playing out most clearly? Well, you can literally see it being built, or at least promised, with tons of steel, concrete, and asphalt. Infrastructure has become the #1 battleground for influence. On one side, you've got China's Belt and Road Initiative, and it's offering a truly transformative vision to turn Nepal from a landlocked nation into a land-linked one. And the centerpiece of this whole thing is a stunningly ambitious railway straight through the Himalayas. But, and this is a huge but, look at the challenges. Over 98% of the route would have to be tunnels and bridges. And then, of course, there's the money. Nepal has been firm. It can only accept grants for these mega projects. China's model, though, is almost entirely based on loans. This fundamental disagreement has led to 7 years of what you can only call glacial progress. No major projects have actually broken ground.
Now, India is not just sitting back and watching this happen. Its neighborhood-first policy is a direct countermove playing to its natural strengths. The key sector here is energy. India has positioned itself as both the main investor in Nepal's massive hydropower potential and, crucially, as its only realistic buyer. The flagship Arun 3 project is about to come online in 2025. But here's the most brilliant and ruthless part of the strategy. Delhi refuses to buy power generated by any project with Chinese involvement. This policy of strategic denial basically makes any large-scale Chinese energy investment in Nepal financially impossible. This whole competition is just perfectly captured in the race to build a railway to Kathmandu. China's project is all about creating a new trade route. India's is about countering it. Both are still in the early stages, but check out this little technical detail, the gauge. China uses standard gauge. India uses broad gauge. Now, that's not an accident. That is a deliberate technical barrier to ensure that even if both railways get built, they can't just connect easily. It allows India to maintain control over access to its huge network.
$500 million, a massive grant, earmarked for Nepal's energy and road infrastructure. But here's the twist. It's not from China, and it's not from India. That money is coming from the United States through its Millennium Challenge Corporation, the MCC. And this introduces a powerful third player into the game. This grant has been, to put it mildly, incredibly controversial inside Nepal. Opponents claim it's all part of a U.S. strategy to contain China, threatening Nepal's non-aligned foreign policy. So, you see, Kathmandu isn't just balancing on a two-sided tightrope anymore. Suddenly, it's a three-way act. Okay, so with all these competing offers of investment and influence flying around, what is the real price for Nepal's economic independence? Let's take a look at the actual data. This is the question that you see in all the headlines, the one that dominates the policy debates. It's the fear that Nepal could go the way of Sri Lanka, losing its sovereignty because it can't repay Chinese loans. But what do the numbers really say? Well, as of early 2025, that debt trap narrative, it just doesn't match the reality on the ground. This chart shows you why. Nearly 90% of Nepal's external debt is owed to multilateral institutions like the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank, and it's on highly favorable, low-interest terms. China is just one of several bilateral lenders that make up that tiny remaining 10%. So right now, today, Nepal is absolutely not in a Chinese debt trap. But, and this is a critical but, the danger isn't in the present, it's in the future. If Nepal were to go ahead and accept commercial loans to fund those multi-billion-dollar projects like the Trans-Himalayan Railway, that debt structure you see would change dramatically, and it would change fast. The fear of a potential debt trap is precisely why Kathmandu is holding out for grants, and it's become a really powerful political tool to slow down some of the riskiest projects. And let's look at investment too. Despite all the headlines about China's growing influence, India remains by far the largest source of cumulative foreign direct investment. We're talking 35%. This just goes to show the deep, long-standing economic ties with its southern neighbor, which is a big contrast to the more recent, high-profile promises coming from the north. So all of this brings us to the ultimate conclusion here. For all the external pressures, for all the pushing and pulling from these giants, Nepal's ability to successfully walk this tightrope is going to depend less on them and a whole lot more on its own internal strength. This sentiment, which is drawn from public opinion data, just captures the national mood perfectly. The people of Nepal don't want to pick a side. They want a pragmatic government that can maintain those deep cultural ties with India while also seizing the economic opportunities that China offers. They expect their leaders to act in the national interest, period. And that brings us right to the core challenge. The greatest risks for Nepal are internal. Can it stop its foreign policy from being used as a pawn in domestic power games? Can it build the stable, competent institutions needed to manage these massive, complex projects and relationships? And maybe most importantly, can its leaders finally forge a unified national vision? Ultimately, this is the one question that will define Nepal's future. Success doesn't depend on Beijing's generosity or Delhi's goodwill. It depends on the political maturity and the unity of Kathmandu itself. The world is watching to see if this Himalayan nation can maintain its delicate balance.